Welcome to the Two Guys Show on the EdReach Network. This is episode number 23, brought to you by the EdReach Network, giving educators a big voice here on February 18th. I am Drew Minnock, and I am one of your hosts. You can find me on Twitter at TechMinnock, or you can find us on our blog at twoguysandsomeipads.com. It's going to be a fun night. If pre-show is anything like the regular show is going to be, we're definitely going to have a lot of fun. My other co-host, as always,
you
is
that bleeping button, right? You said it's
Yep.
like a 2-second delay.
Yeah. Hey,
Remember
everybody.
delay.
All right, I'm counting on that.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Two Guys Show on the EdReach Network. I am one of your hosts, Brad Wade. You can find me on Twitter at TechBradWade. We are pleased to have the awesome and amazing Marty Keltz with us tonight. So, Marty, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you join us.
Yes, I'm delighted. I'm always afraid when I have to go to Detroit, but virtually I think I feel fairly safe.
Awesome.
Good. So when you visit us later, we'll keep you out of downtown Detroit, and we'll bring you up to Bloomfield Hills.
Good.
So,
I would like that.
As we were talking in pre-show, Drew got some information on pre-show that he was not privy to right away, so we'll be sharing that again with you. But Marty, you've been a friend of the show for a while. We've been talking on Twitter quite a bit. We've been chatting a lot, and it's nice to finally have you on the show. In just a moment, we're going to have you give us like a 2-minute overview of kind of fill our viewers in on who you are, what you do, and stuff. And like I told you, Drew, it's gonna be a great night tonight, and I'm glad everybody is joining with us. So Marty, please give our fans and our viewers just a quick little overview of who you are, where you come from, what you do, and then we're gonna get into tons of stuff tonight.
Okay, I think the place you have to start, in any conversation with me about me, is because it's the through line for why I'm in education, why I've been in education, was that, in the 5th grade, I was in a class with 20 students that was overtly and clearly a lot smaller than every other class, and, was a place where me and probably 3 or 4 other kids in the class were non-readers. So in the 5th grade, I was illiterate. I couldn't read, and in those days they didn't know dyslexia from a sore throat, but later on I realized that was the issue for me. So between being dyslexic and ADHD, the entire school experience that I had, practically through being a junior in high school, was very, very negative, and was not a positive experience. So when I'm in these chats and we're talking about how scarring these experiences can be and damaging, and the kid that has learning disabilities versus differences, each of those things are very painful truths to me. Having said that, I wound up very lucky to finally somehow get through high school, graduating in the bottom quarter of my class. I went to Rider College in Trenton, New Jersey, and then went to Adelphi for 4 years. And when I got out of Adelphi, I went into teaching in Brentwood, Long Island, for about 3 or 4 years. And when I was in Brentwood, it was 1968. So it was at a time when McLuhan was having a huge influence on the American education system, and a lot of English teachers and social studies teachers were getting very excited about using tech. We were calling it media, but using tech in the classroom. Showing films, making films. We started out the semester, the first year, every kid brought in 10 copies of Life magazine, and we cut out all the pictures, and then the kids made collages and decorated the room with it. Understanding what was going on in popular culture outside the classroom was a very important part of the media literacy movement, and it's one of the things that obviously I'm chatting about all the time at night. The involvement in school in showing movies and making movies sort of was the preamble, I guess, to me ultimately getting to Scholastic and starting their motion picture and television division in 1978. After I was teaching, and I worked for 6 years at a magazine called Media and Methods, which would be as relevant to be published today as it was then. The thing that I sort of notice about most of the chats we're in during the week is that there's an enormous discussion about technology and, you know, all of the equipment that goes and, you know, bleeps in the night, and, you know, the lights blink and you can do this with it and you can do that with it. But not as much discussion about it as a mechanism for delivering content. And a very important part of what we did in the late 60s and through the whole 6 years that we were publishing Media and Methods was to talk about popular culture and bringing the content that the children, the students, the kids were consuming into the classroom as something that we could use to teach writing or poetry, social studies, and you know, it was a very, very exciting time in education because of the use of film and television, and then video came along and sort of revolutionized it all. First with the 3/4-inch U-matic machines, if you remember them, and then eventually with VHS and Betamax machines. And getting involved with that technology really is what turned my career. And we could do a whole show, you know, just about what a revolution that was in terms of television and what it was then and what it became and how it actually leads up to what your show is today. But basically, in coming to Scholastic, the goal was initially with Scholastic Productions to create original children's programming for VHS and Betamax machines that could be sold to parents, you know, through their children and teachers in the Scholastic book clubs. Those first hundreds of thousands of VHS machines that were in family households in 1972, and I'm sorry, 1979 and 1980, were really the first ad hoc children's network where children could get programming on VHS and Beta that wasn't just what was available Saturday morning on ABC, NBC, or CBS, but to get it, you know, high-quality children's programming that they could watch, their parents could buy, and that they could own. The success that we had with that, I guess because I'm pushy and hungry,
So,
you know,
there's nothing wrong with that.
led to us wanting to produce not just for the home video market, but for broadcast television, movies, and the rest is history.
well, those of you who are just joining us, I'm going to give you some of this background on Marty. In 1978, he was part of Scholastic Productions. He was working with Scholastic, and you heard him mention this just now, getting programming into the hands of children, in front of children, for parents to bring home. And I remember those days, Marty. The thing is, and we talk about this, you know, back then, children's programming was Saturday morning, and, you know, I would get up early with my brother, and we would watch the children's program from probably, you know, 6 to 10 o'clock, and then it was done. You know, we were outside of Saturday morning, we were not considered consumers or a market for people. So I just want to give the audience kind of a little background here and talk about the journey you've taken and actually how relevant it is to what we're doing today. Because in the late 70s, you got with Scholastic, and because of your passion and desire and your interest in filmmaking and editing and movies and stuff in school, you became a real force and a proactive person for children and education and educators, and using your information and knowledge and passion and going to Scholastic and working with them. And what's happened since then in, you know, 30, 40 years, really, I mean, if once people have the time to just kind of check your work out and read your bio, they'll see that progression. And what's amazing now is you could stand on your biography right now, on your bio, and do nothing else, and just absolutely just say, just drop the mic and walk out, and I'd be like applauding. But the thing is Marty, you're still at it. You're still in classrooms. You're beating down the door. You're talking to people like us. You're getting into classrooms. You still want to make a difference. And I love, I'm just going to bring up a couple of the posts you've written about, you being in the industry, the television industry, and executive and all that stuff. And yet here you are looking at the technology today and how it's going to impact education. Can you fill people in on your view of that? Kind of like, you've been in your progression, you know what's happened. Where are we today? What do you see, what's going on right now? What do you see in the future of education and using the technology to deliver content like you brought up earlier?
Well, the irony is that, for a lot of the people that are hanging out in the hashtags, are trying to, throw off the shackles of Common Core standards, and this frenzy of testing, and turning classrooms into test prep. What was curious about the late 60s and now is that the use of film and television in the classroom was the excuse really to do child-centered instruction, was to be able to provide multimedia experiences for children who were successful on one modality versus another. There were kids who saw, who were visual, who were literal, who read. I was somebody who had the experience of knowing what it was like to look at black dots on a page. Absolutely
right.
No idea what that code was all about at a time when I was watching 8 hours of television a day. Now, the interesting thing was that what shut the door on what we were doing in the late 60s and 70s with media literacy and education, and what Media Methods was all about at that point, was Nixon bringing on the Back to Basics movement. It was really under Reagan that it really proliferated. And very little has changed from that period. Even looking through, what we're doing now, obviously with Common Core, or anything that's been in between, there's been this pressure to teach the basics, to create standardized values for what education should be. And the thing that drove me back into this fray was just this accidental discovery of what was going on with Twitter and what you guys and that here it is. It's a renaissance. It's the same. I'm looking at teachers who are 40 years younger than I am, and they have the same enthusiasm and excitement that the teachers had in the late 60s, who wanted to start using film and television in the classroom, again, to teach the whole child, to make the education child-centered, to not have the child have to get over the hurdle of reading or, and making it relevant, so that they would be engaged, so that they would be motivated. And, ironically, and I think a lot of people can't appreciate it because, we all live in the post-Sesame Street era. And it has a lot to do with, connecting the dots to Magic School Bus. But there wasn't anybody who thought education was supposed to be anything else than tedious. Everybody's throwing this word grit around all the time, which basically
rigor,
gives me hives, because it's the same thing of, you have to sit down, you have to pay attention, you have to focus, you have to do your work. I don't know, why not be motivated, excited, engaged, turned on, and you're doing your work, but not because of some external thing.
Well,
no, I agree. And one thing I want to touch on real quick, Marty, is you said, the basics. I'm an early childhood minor when I was in college, and I taught preschool when I was over in China, and I worked in an early childhood center all through college and things like that. And you think about the basics of education at that age group, right, where it's all about creation and discovery, and you're just letting them go, you're letting them play, right, and create, use their imagination and things like that. And it's the same thing. It's about the basics. It's like if it's such good education, then why is it not why do people view it as a problem later on, right? Why? That's when kids discover and they're innovative, right? Is when they're able to create and use their imagination. And I don't know why we need to stop that in early childhood education and not do it all the way through school. Right? And I think it's just the same thing with a sport, right? I taught wrestling, and if you didn't know the basics, you were dead. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's just like anything. You need to know the basics. So I don't understand why the basics are correct down in early childhood of the play and the innovation and creativity and, you know, and choice. But then they want to take that away and change it as we go through the school system.
It's not that they want to take away the idea of what everybody has to achieve in a certain degree of mastery, of skills, of what you need to know how to do. I think what's you know, backed up and screwed up is that you know, the effort is all about a prescriptive approach to education that lays out a group of standards and performance criteria that the kids have to achieve, that the teachers have to help them succeed at achieving, or they lose their jobs, or they, you know, they have to find other careers. Mm-hmm. And in that mix is so toxic for anything that would allow for, you know, what it would mean to become a learner, to have that same joy. You're right. I mean, why can't you have the same joy in preschool throughout your entire experience? I mean, what's a lifelong learner if they're not somebody who, in the equivalent of going online and looking up this and doing that, isn't playing with blocks? It's the same thing. You know, one of the things that drove me out of New York City, and, you know, when my son was getting ready to go into the New York City private schools, because we was not going to go to public school, I'm ashamed to admit, but you know, was that it was a lunatic asylum of testing. You know, they wanted him to go in and score on these, you know, tests that they give 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. You know, it's a crazy thing.
You know, it's funny, Marty, because things haven't changed in New York, and they haven't changed in a lot of the major school systems. And, you know, Marty, you and I have talked. We've talked a lot, you know, back and forth about all kinds of things. And, you know, that's part of why Drew and I are here, and we like to reach out and have our audience and try to get all these early adopters and people who are willing to try to have a voice to change the system. You know, we talk about transforming education. We all know about testing and rigor and scores. You know, I mean, we all, you know, now it's gotten to the point where, you know, our kids have to perform to the testing and the assessments. You know, and so we're driven by that, and that's like you said, it's toxic, because, you know, one thing, Drew states this all the time, and we always talk about this. Passion-wise, we want to teach children to learn, to love, to learn. Because if they can love to learn, then they're set for life. They can use their tools at hand. They can use what's around them. They can collaborate with coworkers or colleagues or whatever it might be. They can get their information. This is now, education is now, it should not be about mastery of everything, because I can't be a master of everything. I can be good at some things, especially where my passions lie. The best thing, if you want to teach me through my strengths and my passions. I will give you all kinds of stuff and great feedback if you teach me through my passion and my strength. But you know what? Organic chemistry may not be my thing. You know what? And that's okay. You know, maybe I'm not going to be an organic chemist. But you know what? I might have some resources for people who are going to be, or I know where to go if I need a specialist or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, and I know you feel the same way. And that's why it's great to have you on here. I told you it's going to be a great ride. We need more people, and Twitter's going crazy, Marty. People love what we're talking about. They're out there. They're supporting what we're talking about, this wave of change.
But okay. let me just, you know, because I overlooked something. What I wanted to try to make the point about Sesame Street, you know, if I didn't bring it up, and that whole period, you know, because my daughter now, you know, was there the first few years when Sesame Street first went on the air, was there was nobody in education said that you were supposed to have a good time learning anything.
Right, right.
There was nobody was saying, oh, you know, like, oh, you're going to have a ball. You know, I mean, actually, the next blog post I'm going to do is about that. You know, come to school, it's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that didn't happen. And what the irony was that Sesame Street came along and wrote things that nobody believed you could learn any other way but through memorization and sitting there and your mother standing over you and making you, you know, learn the letters and all the rest of that stuff. And it was a revolution. You know, it was a revolution. And I think that what I'm hoping is going to happen is that this very powerful awareness that's developing, you know, within these collective PLNs, that education can be engaging and fun and child-centered, and we can teach the whole child and all these things that, you know, there are those people out there, they're very upright. You know, it's like, and after we'll do that, we'll all go out and hug trees. You know, but the reality is that's what's going to create the imaginative and innovative thinkers that we need to solve the 21st century and 22nd century problems we're going to have. It's not going to be people who can sit there and the big skill they came out of school with was that they learned how to take tests.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. There's,
exactly.
you know, I talked to my parents at curriculum night at the beginning of the year, and I said, you know, the number one goal I have this year is that every single morning your kid loves coming to school. You know,
yes.
If he's excited about going to school every morning, or he or she are excited about going to school every morning, then you know what? All throughout that day, I've got them. They're gonna learn. We're gonna do engaging things, you know. But if I sit there and I'm preaching to them, you need to sit, you can't talk, you know, you can't do this, you need to ask permission for everything, you don't have a say, they're not going to love coming to school. You know, there's three things I want.
What happens if you're actually being terrorized by the district about how they're going to perform on the test as your report card? What attitude do you come into the classroom as a result of that? And how does that translate over to the child that's being told that if they don't do well, they're not going to get into college, they won't have a job, it's this, you know, it's the same thing. You'll be starving in the streets, nobody will hire you, you know, you're never gonna, you know, you'll wear old clothes, you'll be in the poorhouse. That was an expression my father used. You know?
Yeah. There's three things I tell my kids that they need to leave our classroom with, and it usually they're never curriculum based, okay? It's one, you need to love to learn. That's the number one thing they need to do in my classroom. Two, they have to be kind to people, because you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you're a jerk, it doesn't matter. No one wants to work with you. No one wants to communicate with you. But even if you're struggling, if you're kind to people, they want to help you. They will help you succeed, right? So one, you got to love to learn. Two, you got to be kind to people. And three, you got to work hard. Because even if you are not the smartest person in the world, if you have the work ethic, then you're going to be all right in life, you know? And these are life skills that need to be taught early on. Because I'll tell you what, I was never a straight-A student, ever, you know? But I work hard for what I get, you know? And that is the number one thing that I want, the three top things that I want kids leaving my classroom with. Love to learn, be kind to people, and work hard. That's it.
But the work ethic will come as a byproduct of having successfully engaged and motivated them.
Yeah, I agree.
What I worry about is, you know, because I remember it, you know, being yelled at because I'm lazy, I'm, you know, I won't sit in my seat, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, you know, I don't have a work ethic, all of that stuff. I was bored. You know, I was uninterested in what was going on. You know, I proved later on that when I was interested in what I was doing, you know, I was going to be motivated. I mean, I have a very funny story about, I had already become the president of Scholastic Productions. And, And I had to look at the balance sheet. I had to look at profit and loss. I had to do things. Like I didn't have the math skills for that.
Right.
I mean, I didn't. I was like saying to myself, I'm going to have to go get an MBA at night, but I won't tell anybody. Because they'll see that I don't. I think I called my friend Kenny and I asked him, tell me how to do percentages and fractions or blah blah blah. But the reality, the irony was, I learned it all. I learned it all by doing it and by wanting to do it. But not because there was an extrinsic Judeo-Christian Protestant work ethic. You've got to work hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it makes me nervous when because it's a judgment call. We're saying that to kids who come into school. 12 million of them haven't eaten.
Right. Absolutely.
Saying, show some grit. They showed grit, got there.
Yeah.
They showed up. And now there's less available to feed the poor than there ever was in the United States. It's a very, very sad situation. But I want to get back to what you said about kindness because it's such an important part of what we're trying to do with Critikin. And it's such an important part of everything we're talking about, which is the idea of cultivating emotional intelligence. Creating an environment in the classroom where children are, as a byproduct of what's going on, learning empathy, learning compassion, learning kindness. You do that, you make the classroom experience a felt experience. There's no bullying.
Yep.
And there isn't ever been at any time in literature a better way to teach children than through animal stories. I mean, it makes it very, very easy. So, you have the animals in the story, and it's very easy to anthropomorphize them and to use it as a safe way for the children to talk about differences, diversity, the animal that's, I mean, we've seen it in all the favorite cartoons we've ever had. I mean, Tigger is me, I mean, ADHD. I mean, it's like,
Right. You can identify him, right?
I mean, really. I mean, there I was in the second row in the fourth seat, and I sat in my seat about 10% of the time. It was never.
Amen. I'm with you.
Brad's right there. He's Tigger right with you. I'll tell you what. I swear half the time I see him, he's bouncing around on his tail.
Yeah.
Just to reset, we are with the awesome Marty Keltz, former president with Scholastic, and we're moving on to Critikin. Critikin is his latest adventure, and I still want to get back to some other things magical, but it's got some funny stuff I want to ask you about. But Critikin is his latest venture, and this is where him and Jenna, one of his partners, they come in. They've worked on books using animals and storytelling. Because Marty, you know as well as I do, the education goes all the way back to storytelling. That's how, when tribes and families were together, they didn't have a written language. They didn't have anything like that. They certainly didn't have papers. It was oral traditions and storytelling. Well, you know what? It was a lot easier to tell a story about why kids should not go out in the woods by themselves, about a wolf eating a kid, blah, 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 versus just saying, stay out of the woods, Johnny. Because it's a story. We're a storytelling society.
The Bible is allegories.
What?
I said the Bible's allegory.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's like you're bringing it full circle. You've thought about this. We Drew and I are storytellers. We also deliver stories when we're out in front of people. We share our passion and what we do in education by storytelling, what we do in our classrooms, and how we see the change in education and what we're doing to help out that. So the thing is so what you're doing here with Critikin, it makes sense. You guys came in. I want to give a plug to you guys about educators. If you want to hook up with Marty on Critikin, they will do GHO with you. They will Skype with you. They read stories. They talk about, and there's a call to action. It's not just a one-time flash in the pan. They get together with you. The kids work hand in hand. I've done it with my class. That was Marty and Jenna and I got together after we had been tweeting a while. So Marty, tell us about maybe one of the stories, to give an example to our audience about one of the stories with one of the characters and maybe empathy or whatever the social thing is you're working on.
Well, the first thing I should say is that Critikin is at its heart and soul the creation of Jenna Ball.
Yes, Jenna Ball.
Jenna, I know she's watching tonight.
Yes.
Jenna, Denaya Maureen, check her out.
Right. So Jenna came up with Critikin as an idea, and the stories. And what was interesting was that she was sort of using stock art and finding different things. And I happened to notice that she had done some sketches, and I said, "Who did those drawings?" I said, "Were you tracing things?" She said, "No, I did them." I said, "You did those drawings?" I said, "I'll bring you back to Scholastic." I said, "We'll make a fortune." I said, "You keep drawing." And so Critikin came together, out of her imagination, her mind, both in terms of the storytelling and the creative side of it. And it resonated with everything that I had done, whether I was in the classroom in the 60s telling stories and when we were doing what we were doing at Scholastic. The most important thing that happened with the Magic School Bus is exactly what happened with Sesame Street. Was the idea, and I wrote a blog post about how hard a sell it was to get the Magic School Bus ultimately on.
I read it. I remember.
Which will surprise people. But again, in the same way that people sat with this mindset, that school was work and boring and tedious, and you needed grit and you needed this and you needed that to get through it, okay, was exactly the same kind of mindset about education and entertainment. The two things were mutually exclusive, as soon as, especially with Magic School Bus is going to go on the air when He-Man and Masters of the Universe is on the air. When
competition, right?
Right, yeah. When Power Rangers, when all of these very male-oriented action-adventure shows, and the broadcasters at public television and everywhere believed that if you put on something that they'll see it's about science, they'll immediately, no kid will watch it, it'll be a disaster, So the great triumph of that was that it was not only the most successful show that on public television, it was the first animated show they ever did, but then it went to the Fox television network, which was where the Power Rangers were and Transformers and all the rest of that, and it started winning its time periods and was the #1 show there, okay? So the marriage back with Critikin was the idea that of everything that Jenna and I felt was important to bring to education today, it was this idea of creating an environment in which we cultivated empathy, we cultivated compassion, we cultivated kindness. Everything that we're suffering from in the 21st century is a result of a lack of empathy and compassion. So much that's wrong in our society is driven by fear of the unknown, of the different, and there was nothing better or richer in the way to tell that story than to do it through animals and to do it through the Critikin mutts and be able to give the children the opportunity not to be finger pointing at other kids in the classroom, but to be looking at the dogs and the dogs' behaviors and the challenges that they run into in a way that gave them the ability to talk about emotions and feelings. And we're seeing that happen with all the Google Hangouts. You saw it when we did it with your class too, Brad. I mean, the conversations come up very naturally. The kids understand it. So, the story that we've been telling, which has really been the kickoff for this, and there's a lot more. There's a new book that'll be coming out called From the Heart, which really is going to get into the whole bullying issue in a very, very important way. But in Meet the Mutts, you hear about this dog called Ricky Bobby, and it's based on a true story. And Ricky Bobby is a dog that was rescued from a puppy mill. You know, one of these breeding operations that should be shut down in every state in America and all over the world. And believe me, there's lots of challenges in trying to do that. But you know, here was this dachshund that I guess at one point was a stud male that after it lost its effectiveness was just left, you know, to be unfed and live in the most awful kinds of situation. It had a, you know, eventually developed a problem with its back, and when they rescued it, when the Humane Society came and rescued this dog, you know, they found this frightened, horribly scared little puppy who, when he was finally brought into an environment of kids, kindness, and love and care, right? Did you get that?
Got it.
So we got it.
Put it in the show notes too.
You're good. You guys are good. You see, you're getting an A already, and I don't even grade.
Yes.
Okay? He thrived. You know why? Because the people who took care of him healed him, and the person who eventually adopted him, you know, built him an equivalent of a wheelchair.
Yep.
Watch the video, and you're crying when it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, it's. I can tell you firsthand because we've done this, and the story Marty's telling you is absolutely awesome. And like you said, Marty, the kids' conversations just came up naturally. They're involved, they're engaged, and they're learning very good social skills and information and empathy and things for their fellow, not only for animals, but their fellow, you know, students and humans.
It transfers right over.
Absolutely.
And that's the dog that's Ricky Bobby we're talking about here on the Two Guys Show with it's the Be Kind, right? The Be Kind by Design.
Basically, what we've done in this is that, you know, the stories, Critican is all about project-based learning. You know, ultimately, what we want to do with the stories is have a, you know, multiple contacts with the teacher and the students. I mean, ultimately, what we're doing as mentors or as you know, quote unquote performers coming into the classroom is something that can be done just as easily and even better by the classroom teacher or by a kid. You know, bring in somebody. You know, we were talking tonight in Ed Chat, you know, about the value potentially of heterogeneous grouping. And I know, Brad, you and Todd get together. You know, your fifth graders get together with his third graders and do stuff together. And we talked about doing something where your kids could be, you know, supervising them. But the point is that there's a very rich metaphor in this whole idea of animal rescue and what the plight is of animals that need to be adopted. And you can take the story that we've started and then get the children involved. If all you want to do is get them involved in the classroom and thinking about it and being sensitive to it, great. But you could also pick up the phone and call the local shelter, the local rescue group. You can develop a campaign where you actually get the kids, you know, out raising money for the shelter, collecting blankets, dog food. We had a Florida class this week that, you know, got all the kids to bring in different colored T-shirts that they tore up and they built into, they knotted into braided ropes so they could create dog toys.
That's, you know, how cool is that?
Oh yeah, but you could also take a toilet paper roll and put holes in it and put thread coming out of it, and you've got a wonderful toy for a cat.
I'm gonna write that down because our cat needs some toys. Let me tell you.
Yeah, but just think about what the child is learning. You know, making those things, creating those things, getting involved in encouraging dogs that are and cats that are in the shelter to be adopted. You know, it's a way to create something that's on a community basis. You know, translatable to things that relate to everything internationally that we need to have happen in terms of empathy and compassion and caring for one another and blah, 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 blah. I mean,
Absolutely.
you guys know the drill. I don't need to.
Well, Marty, it's funny because I'm sitting here like I take notes during the show about when people say things, and we may have to have a second show at some point.
Honestly.
Because, I mean, seriously, I wrote down popular culture into the classroom, bringing important things back into education. I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff here. And we haven't even touched on your struggles with Magic School Bus and getting that. I mean, you were competing with Power Rangers and Transformers and He-Man and stuff like that, and yet you believed in it and you got it. And honestly, that struggle that you overcame with your team that you led with Magic School Bus, really, I mean, really, you put your foot in and you made a big shift in the way we deliver education content. And showed that it is possible. Look, I was that one kid who I loved Mr. Wizard, okay? You know, most people won't even know who I'm talking about. Right. Mr. Wizard was awesome, you know? I mean, he just some guy for after school some days, he would just show you cool science. I mean, I loved Mr. Wizard, but, you know, I don't know how many people were like me, but like you probably, you know, like that stuff too, Marty, and you knew there was an avenue for it for us to deliver content and education in that way. And you know what? As an educator and a parent, thank you for doing that because, you know, you made a big impact. And I just, like I said, I've taken so many notes about what you said tonight that you're still doing it, and it's great stuff.
Well, I want to say one thing here because there's a reason that I'm still doing it. Which has less to do with me than what you and the people like you represent. You know what's happened for me. You know here. You know at the end of my career almost is that there's a vision, a kind of an imagining of what education could be. You know, here among the hashtags, in spite of such dreadful conditions and situations that teachers put up with and kids suffer through. And there are people here who every night are celebrating what they do as teachers, their professionalism, what they're doing in their classroom. You know, yeah, I mean, there's this app and there's that widget and whatever, you know, and that's all great, but the excitement about it is that, you know, one widget works for one kid, another widget works for another, another thing is this.
So true.
You've got a class of 20 kids, each doing different things on different media, but each one of those kids is getting the opportunity, and the teacher is getting the opportunity to watch each of those children succeed, become empowered, be happy that they're there, you know, in a way that ultimately I believe can define what education becomes in the 21st century. But it has to become a situation where these PLNs grow, where it's not a game of seeing, oh, look, I have so many more people who follow me than I follow. You know, one of the things that I enjoy doing the most is this thing we started on Saturday morning called, it's a hashtag called NT2T, okay? Which is New Teachers to Twitter. Because I'm sort of on a mission, you know, to get teachers to bring new teachers to Twitter. Because we need to grow the base. We need to have more people who have drunk the Kool-Aid, you know, and more people who say, hey, you know what, this PLN is wonderful. We're all getting to talk to each other, and they like what I say, and they think I'm smart and good-looking and everything else. But, you know, on Wednesday nights, you can get together with Joe Mazza and parents. You know, if you can get more people to come to, you know, the parent-teacher chat and have other ways to bring parents in to the mix. And if we can turn the PLNs into political action committees that are, you know, through the kinds of things that Tony, you know, and Joe are trying to teach us about branding, you know, so that we're out getting the message out about what really reform is all about. You know, what education really can be, as opposed to what it actually has become. Because there's so much noise that comes out of the media and the politicians about what education is, that has nothing to do with loving children, caring about children, or even caring about the future of the United States, to be able to put a workforce out there that can be competitive with the rest of the world. And believe me, we're not going to know we succeeded or failed because of PISA scores. I mean, you know, that's like the deaf, dumb, and blind, you know, sitting down and trying to make a determination about how we have to prepare children to be able to live in a world where we're competing with China and India and all the rest of the world. Ain't going to happen that way.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Preaching to the choir, Marty. We love it.
Well,
we need to move on to the Twitter shout-outs, Brad, because I know you've got 75 shout-outs to do tonight, so we should be done by 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. That's true. So, Marty, we're gonna just kind of push the pause button on this episode with you, because we're gonna have to get you back in, because I have so many notes and things I still want to talk to you about, and from not only from the Twitter feedback we're getting, but all the text on my phone. People want you to come back, so we do. Well,
need to get him back.
We're definitely gonna and we're gonna see you in person, face to face, in about a month, 3 weeks, I believe. I put it on my calendar. I don't think I pushed the notification to you, Drew. I think it's like
yeah. This is how this works, everybody. Brad gets a notification of something that's going on, and then
he
never tells me about it, and it's just like, oh, surprise, Marty's coming into town in a couple weeks. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, he said you're going to be out of town. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's just how it works sometimes. But all right, so hey, you know, we're going to get to some great parts of the show. It's been crazy fun. We've done some cool stuff. We're going to get to our PLN Twitter shoutouts, and then we're going to get to the playlist. So, Marty, why don't you start on your Twitter PLN shoutouts, and we'll go from there.
I'm going to do it two ways, okay?
All right.
First, which I didn't get to do, but everybody who's watching or will watch or eventually watches should find tweets with under 100 followers and follow them, and then promote that follow to the rest of their group. Okay, so we're not just dealing with this kind of hierarchical structure. But on the other hand, there are always hierarchical structures. So I have to start with Shannon because, you know, it was sort of accidental when Jenna and I were first starting out with Critikin and had this idea of doing the classroom visits, that I found this name, you know, of this woman, you know, teaching in Iowa, and she took us under her wing and brought us into her library, and the rest is history in terms of what we learned about Twitter and hashtags, and it was in one of those first conversations with her that I've heard about your show, interesting enough. So I have to give a nod to her. The other one I have to say is, you know, people should really follow my partner, Jenna Ball. You know, there isn't a greater truth teller out there speaking from the heart and talking about empathy and compassion, you know, whether it's through the dogs or just on her own blog. You know, the other thing is that Jimmy Casas, you know, has been wonderful about inviting me to Iowa, and I know that it's going to be a wonderful experience there. And I think, you know, he's terrific. And then Julie Shea and Molly Shields and Mary Alice. I don't know, I'm going over my limit. But these are...
Don't worry. This is what Brad does every week. Okay. This is normal.
Hey, Marty. Hey, you and I are the same, brother. I
got a couple of Tiggers with me. I mean, what's going on?
Exactly.
But what's happened with those people in particular is that, you know, what Jenna has accomplished as a storyteller has so resonated with them. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I'm a producer. You know, I'm the maitre d'. You know, if you don't have the brilliant chef, you know, you don't have the meal. You know, you get a good table in the corner, but you're eating garbage. You know.
Right. You're the maitre d'. I like that.
And if you look at anything that's the hallmark of what we did at Scholastic Productions, that when I was there, is we won 75 awards. Everything was quality. Everything was the best it could be of, and we're continuing that, you know, that tradition. And these three women, they smell it, taste it, and celebrate it in their tweets and support us. And for that, both Jenna and I are really, really grateful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Absolutely. I'll second all that, Marty. Well done. All right, Drew, you have your shout-outs?
I do. And you know how many I have, Brad?
2.
I have 3.
3? You got 3. Right on.
I have 3. First one, Brad, might be a surprise to you.
Yeah.
But it goes to one of our coworkers. She works across the hall. One of your dear friends for a long time. Missy Casey is definitely getting a shout out today.
Does she know? Does she know?
I don't think Missy does know.
Wow.
I don't think she does. She is at Missy Dip. MISSYDIP. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about someone who has compassion for her students and just cares so much about the relationships that she builds with her students. It is Missy Casey, and she is just awesome to work with. She really is. She's in my tech cohort that I have to run, that I'm privileged to run, I should say, for our building, and she's created this classroom website that is just awesome for her students and parents. So definitely a shout out to Missy Casey at Missy Dip. Next one is going to another coworker of ours, Nancy Kahn, who is our Spanish teacher. She was unfortunately out sick today, but we found out she was nominated for the McCall Teacher of the Year award and found out she was the runner-up. And she is awesome with technology in our school. She definitely finds an engaging and fun way. The kids absolutely love going to Spanish and learning from her.
Yep.
And then last, of course, is the McCall Teacher of the Year, our dear friend Aaron Klein.
Is it public now?
It is public.
Oh, all right.
And
nice.
I'll tell you what, there is nobody more deserving of that award than Aaron Klein. She works so hard, you know, and she does amazing things for her students. Brad, she's done amazing things for you and I.
Yep.
A dear friend to us, that's for sure, and big shout out to Aaron Klein and congratulations. I can't think of anyone who I could be happier that gets that award.
Yep, absolutely. Well done and well stated, Drew. For those of you who are just joining us, hopefully you're not, but we're doing our PLN Twitter shout out. Marty did a nice job, and so did Drew. I guess I'm going to have to get creative. But on Drew's shout-outs, 2 of them, Missy, she was my oldest son's kindergarten teacher. She was fantastic. And Senora Khan, she taught all 3 of my kids Spanish, and I currently have my first grader who goes and sees her in Spanish, and she absolutely loves it. She sings in Spanish, and she loves to talk in Spanish, and she does a lot more Spanish than I do, and she's only 6. But anyways, so, all right. So my shout-outs, interesting tonight. It's going to be a little, I always shout out to people watching the show tonight. And, you know, Craig's back. I see Craig's finally back. He took a hiatus.
Finally.
You know, he was out for a while. Ryan, nice to see you. Great job down at FETC. Jenna, Lauren, Shannon, Matt, nice to see you. Geez, all kinds of great people joining us tonight. Laura Gilchrist, by the way, we will be doing Missouri Ed Chat on Thursday night, so hashtag MoEd.
Yes, very excited about that.
That is fantastic. And then Michael Medvitsky is with us. Let's see who else.
There's a bunch of people. That Twitter's going crazy today.
It's going crazy. So let's see. I had something. All right, so Matt is here. I believe we are going to be seeing Matt this summer. He is in Lafayette, Indiana, and has a Mission and Power conference that sounds like we're going to be joining with him. And then I got a shout out to an author that I've been talking with. And I'm going to put this back out there. Jenna's going to come on. Barty Toto is going to come on. She's an author. You can follow her on Twitter. She is Barty, BARDI_Toto. Another person to check out. And so I'm going to do a quick shout out for authors. We are putting a panel together for authors to come on the show for Reading Month in March. If you are an author or you know of authors you'd like to see, please contact them. Have them contact us through Twitter or through our contacts page on our blog, which will give you the information soon. We'll also be doing Texas Ed Chat on March 2nd. It's a Sunday. I believe it's at 8 p.m. Central. And then I guess really that's. I'm gonna stop my shout outs there because I really
what level are we at?
Oh, sorry, I didn't feel like I really did any. But and there's Terry. She popped in. I don't know.
Brad's
I don't know.
over here, people.
Did I get any, Andrew? Did I have any tonight?
1 or 2.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. This one, he's mine. This is Jim. Huge shout-outs to Jim Beagley. You can find him on Twitter. He is at Beagley Tech, and let me spell that for you. BEEGHLEYTECH. We work with him a lot. He does awesome stuff in his school.
He makes our life much better.
And you know what? Yes,
much
absolutely.
Easier.
Huge shout outs to Jim. He does some great things for us. We work hand in hand on some business things. He's absolutely fantastic. We love what he does for us. And shout out to his daughter as well, to Sarah. Sarah's at the _geeky girl. So shout out to Jim and Sarah. Know you're watching tonight. Thanks for everything you do.
Brad, I actually went to her presentation at Podstock last year.
Oh, that was her? No way.
His daughter, yep.
Yeah, did she the Civil War? Was that her at the Civil War?
Civil War Bear, yep.
Yeah, we split up because we had to go to 2 sessions. I remember, Jim, that is so cool. Right on. First, yep. Wow. Small
cool.
world. Small world. Speaking of which, I think I'm wearing.
Podstock, boom, superheroes. You guys got to get your proposals in for that conference. Let me tell you.
Shout out to Podstock SDEX conference in Wichita, Kansas. It is limited by design, so if you want to be there, you got to get in. You got to register. If you want to present, you got to get in. It is the best. It is great. We will be there. It's a great event. So, all right, I've just derailed this thing. I don't even know.
Yep. We're on par for our the time limit here, but now Brad just crashing the wall down, busting it down like Kramer, like normal. I mean, it's cool.
Well, Marty and I took that carriage to the old Ebbs Field or whatever, when we were, in Brooklyn to go catch a game. Did you see those tweets, Drew?
No.
It was funny. Marty and I knew we were gonna, be considered a little older than you, and the pre-show was really.
I tried to do my part tonight.
I know you didn't shave.
I didn't shave just for Marty, just so I could look older.
Yeah, well, you're a Kello fellow. But I'm not even gonna go there because I could say so many.
You know what?
I appreciate that. Let's leave it to post show.
Yeah, post show. Okay, good.
Yeah, post show and then next show. Next show is gonna be interesting. All right, so let's move on to one of the most exciting segments of the show. What's on your playlist? We have a blast with this every week. So Marty, I know you've had a lot of time to think about it. What do you want to share with us? What's on your playlist, my friend?
I want to do it by performers so that
right on. Do it however you want.
A song. It's not
I like it.
There's too many. Okay. So I think the number one for me is Super Session, which is Mike Bloomfield, Al Cooper, and Stephen Sills, which was an incredible album. Those were guys that wound up in Blood, Sweat, and Tears, some of them. So you may know them more for them. Bloomfield, unfortunately, was another one of those guys who OD'd on drugs at a very young age. A lot of the guys in my generation.
Don't play with drugs, kids.
No.
Say no.
No, we're gonna stop the stories there. But so Supersession is like very, very up on my list, and I would suggest that anybody of any generation would love it. The other thing that my kids would expect me to say, and I would say loudly, is Van Morrison. I'm always listening to Van Morrison. I always have had. These are all record albums that I had. And
yeah, Drew, record albums. They're like large CDs, and you put them on
I should have brought, because I have a collection of over 300 albums.
I do. I have a collection as well.
What's a CD?
So
what's a CD? Oh, that's funny. All right, Drew, back.
One footnote I want you to remember, okay, about Al Kooper and Bloomfield, is that if you go to Dylan's album Highway 69 Revisited, Bloomfield and Al Kooper were there playing, guitar and keyboards. So it's an important fact known to every freak who came out of the 60s. And then the last thing would have to be Ray Charles, who the first time I saw him live was in Trenton, New Jersey, at Rider College. And then I think the last time I saw him live was with my daughter, and it was at Carnegie Hall.
Awesome.
But it was nobody who put on a show like he did. Nobody. It was extraordinary to see him perform.
I thought it was.
So that's,
those are your three, huh, Marty?
yes.
Nice
Excellent.
job.
Excellent. Very well done.
He brought some class to the show, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. Since you just totally took the class out of it, he brought it back. Thanks, Marty. We appreciate that.
It's easy. It comes with old.
So Drew, I know you probably feel like you're a little dyslexic just now because he said a lot of names you're probably not familiar with. You can Wikipedia him after the show. He's doing this. He's like, it's over my head. I don't get it, which is not hard to do to get over his head, but that's all right.
I want to ask you a question, Drew. Have you ever heard of Nina Simone?
Who?
Nina Simone.
Isn't that a planet?
No. What I want you to do is before you go to sleep tonight, you go to iTunes. Everybody has this as an assignment, okay? And they find Nina Simone.
Oh, Nina.
N-I-N-A-S-I-M-O-N-E.
Venus.
What is it? Venus.
No, Nina Simone. And listen to her sing, and you probably will stay up all night listening to every cut she ever recorded.
All right, I'll check that out. Okay, now moving on to my child, as Brad has completely dogged me for my height. Thank you very much. My first one, which I already tweeted out, is All of Me by John Legend. That guy's voice is unbelievable.
You know what?
Hands down, that incredible voice.
Dude, I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Second one is a new album, CD, that is coming out from Need to Breathe. Need to Breathe, I think, is great, personally. I have a couple of their CDs, and I think they're awesome.
You know, when you get to my age, Need to Breathe is very important. I wake up every morning and I say, Marty, you need to breathe.
That's right. Don't forget, Marty. Don't forget.
I say, don't forget. You know.
Need to Breathe. Definitely check them out. It's called The State I'm In. I just tweeted out the YouTube link to the video. And last one is Pompeii by Bastille.
Which is good. That's good.
Which is a real good song.
I was there, you know, when that all came down.
He was at the Bastille. That is awesome. You know, I saw. That's funny.
I was there.
That's awesome.
They're making a movie coming out on Pompeii. You'll see.
Yes, there is. Yep.
You'll see me. There's Marty waving in the background.
Yeah, you know, look close.
Too funny. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just laughing. That's too funny.
Well, Brad, you're up.
Am I up? Are you kidding me? All right. Okay.
Yeah, you have to sing your favorites.
Again? You know what? I've already lost some viewers by derailing this show. I don't.
Oh my gosh.
You know what, Marty? Here's the thing: is like, some people will be listening to this in their car later. Like, hey, actually, I wish I had her in front of me, but I gotta follow. And I was chatting with this educator in Washington State, and she's like, I have a long commute every morning, so I just found you guys' show. So glad. I'm like, how crazy is that? People are listening to this in their car and stuff. I'm glad we're entertaining, but. So really, Marty, we've already lost some listeners by me derailing the show tonight. I don't want anybody driving off the road with me singing, So
save us.
Oh my gosh!
Exactly. You can already see my selfie videos and pictures on Instagram. Where was I this morning, Drew, on Instagram?
I don't know. I didn't check.
I was on my roof this morning, but
Oh yes, I didn't see the Instagram. I told you no selfies on the roof. That was a very specific order. That obviously you didn't.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
All right, get to music. Let's go.
Look at Marty keeping us on track. I love it. All right, so
it's getting late. I have to go to sleep.
He's in Toronto. It is almost midnight. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so shout out Blue Fire Project Dirty. That's an album. If you haven't seen it, go get it. Okay, here I am. I'm going. Sorry, Drew. All right. Okay, so I'm going back a little bit. I'm gonna share some songs. Angels on the Moon by Thriving Ivory.
That's a good song.
I had my playlist on shuffle today, and it came on, and it was just great. So Angels on the Moon by Thriving Ivory, Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol.
One of my favorites of all time.
Me too. Love it, love it, love it. And then Endlessly by The Cab, another song. I got my playlist out here and just listen to. It's great. So you know what? I'm gonna stick with those three. I am. But there's a but. All right, we're working on the next musical guest. So if you guys know who you'd like to come on and be on our show, we had Project Dirty. We want to have another musical guest come on. We want to talk about them, music and education, keeping music in the schools. So if you have an idea of a musician or artist or band you want to see on the show, let us know. Tweet them out. We'll start working on it. And we'll just try to make that happen in the next couple months. So I just wanted to put that out there. So let us know who you want to see and tweet at them and tweet at us.
Yes, definitely. And one more note before we end this and wrap this up. Next Tuesday, we have switched from next Tuesday to next Monday with Vicki Davis. So it'll be next Monday, the 24th. At 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Vicki Davis. Next Monday, the Two Guys Show, not Tuesday. Just a little FYI for everybody. And I'll change that on the Google Plus RSVP page and all that. So just a little FYI. Vicki Davis next Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Two Guys Show.
All right.
You can find us on iTunes. Definitely head on over there, subscribe, leave a comment. How you like the show. If you don't like the show, like we say, you don't need to leave a comment if you don't want to. And then you can find us on Facebook, the Two Guys and Some iPads. We're real close to 500 likes, Brad. Like real close.
Oh, right on,
So would love to jump over that mark. So head on over, give us a like on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at TechManock, and as always, you can find us on our blog at twoguysandsomeipads.com.
Awesome.
Brad?
Yes, and thank you to Marty for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Marty. Too much fun.
Yeah, thank you, Marty, for part one of this episode with you. Thank you to the EdReach Network. Thank you to all of you for joining us tonight, and thank you for not only watching us, for talking and joining us through Twitter. Those of you who are listening to this on a podcast later, thank you for joining us on iTunes and downloading. We appreciate you being with us. Thank you to the EdReach Network, and thanks for joining us on the Two Guys Show. Drew, it's always a pleasure. And you guys can find me on Twitter at TechBradWade. On Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram, Two Guys Some iPads _ It's really it's behind the scenes stuff, but it's a lot of silly stuff from me, swimming on my roof, whatever, selfie videos. If you like that, great. If you don't, you probably won't like it. So, so anyways, I guess it's time to wrap things up. And thank you to everybody for joining us tonight.
Thank you everybody, and thank you, Marty. It's a pleasure, and we can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Stay connected, everybody. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.